This is the Infatuasian podcast, where I get together with a few friends to talk about Asian things and Asian people that we love. This is Curtis, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about TV, more specifically, Asian sitcoms. Welcome to episode number 15 of the Infatuasian podcast. Today, we're talking about a format that is quintessentially American, I think. It's pretty much as old as television itself. It is the situation comedy, or sitcoms. We might talk about other shows too, but that's kind of our focus today. And coming along for the ride today are two very special guests. Let's start with my longtime friend, who, honestly, we don't talk enough. We bumped into each other at the zoo a couple years ago, and other than that, it's all online. But I guess we're just too busy raising kids, Mel. I don't know. What are we doing with ourselves here?
It's been a while.
But we met in high school. Actually, we didn't. Did we actually meet in high school? I don't know.
No, you were too cool for me in high school.
Yeah, please.
I was a lowly freshman.
That's right, yeah. But then you came up along into college with our friend Liz, and we hung out in college. And then you were actually one of my movie buddies for a while. I don't know if you remember that era. Do you remember that era? We used to go see movies together?
Yeah, I think we went to see plays we drove down to San Francisco.
True.
And watched Warrior Woman, was it?
Woman Warrior, yeah.
Woman Warrior.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. So, you've heard her voice now, but let's introduce you to Melanie. What's up, Mel?
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I was trying to think who can I talk TV with, and I was thinking, Mel watches a lot of TV.
That's right. What else do I have to do?
All right, and our big time celebrity. You are the biggest celebrity we've ever had on this show.
Woohoo!
What does that say? What does that say?
Oh
about
dear!
Us?
Oh no! Well, that's I'm very sorry for you.
No. You know when you've got over 80 acting credits on IMDB, you're someone, man. You're someone. So he's got too many shows to mention. But actually, just this week, I believe we had a drop of one of Theo's credits. He did some voice work on Marvel's animated show Hit Monkey.
That's right, on Hulu. Yes.
Yeah. So everybody go check that out. He's appeared in The Affair, Jane the Virgin, New Girl. So many shows. He's actually carving out a nice little niche for yourself doing voiceovers now, yeah? Is that kind of a lot of your work lately?
Yeah, well, certainly this past year when we were all stuck at home, and that was kind of the only work available. Yeah, very fortunate to be able to do that. But yeah.
Should I drop your number one claim to fame with Asian teenagers? Let's do it. All right, so you might know right now the voice you're hearing is none other than the voice of Zenyatta on Overwatch, which I know nothing about. Do you know anything?
I probably know even less than you. I think.
So I work with teenagers. Everyone knows I'm a high school teacher, so I work with teenagers. And every so often, just to get some street cred, I'll say, "Oh, by the way, I went to high school with the voice of Zenyatta." So. And Mel, actually, Theo did me a solid one time. I had a kid, and not my kid, but a student, and she graduated and went down to UC San Diego, and they were running a little, I don't know what it was, a UC San Diego video game club conference or something like that.
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah.
They had an esports team, which is a thing now.
It's a thing.
It's esports are.
And I said, well, I know the voice of Zenyatta. And she literally wet her pants. I think she had to go change her pants. And I was like, I could shoot him an email. Maybe he'll show up. He works for food, right? So I said, I emailed Theo. I said, hey, this is a long shot, but would you be willing to drive to San Diego and help one of my students out? And he did, and they were freaking out.
How cool, Theo!
It was. I think that was probably kind of at the beginning or kind of the height of the Overwatch popularity, and it was a nice drive down to San Diego. I think we'd spent the night before, and I convinced another one of my castmates, Josh Petersdorf. He plays a character called Roadhog, and we showed up, and yeah,
screaming fans throwing comic books at you and stuff.
Well, it's. Do you remember Galaxy Quest? Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
It was like kind of like about Star Trek, but not
like a parody.
Star Trek. Yeah. And that was my experience with conventions and that kind of thing had been fairly limited prior to this. And I always thought of Galaxy Quest whenever I that one fella, Alan Rickman's character, he was I guess supposed to be like Leonard Nimoy doing Spock, and he was so sick of having to say his catchphrase, it's like, by Grabthor's hammer, or something like that. Yeah. And if I had ever thought that like I would be saying like the same two words, like for the rest, but there are worse fates to have, really. So it's fine. It's all good. It's nice when you can bring a smile to someone's face just by something that you. Yeah. Some job you did. So that's
But you know what? I think huge fame is coming your way, Theo. I feel
definitely.
I feel, you know what? Because the ironic thing is, I remember like in your 20s and 30s, and you're dieting all the time and working out all the time.
Sure.
Trying to be the leading male. And then you hit 40, and you kind of got the dad bod, and you've been getting more roles.
No, I mean, it is funny that you mentioned that, and it's even when I was younger, I felt like I never really played young or like conveyed. I never had that kind of I guess it's CW now, or like the WB, that kind of essence.
Yeah.
And so I was never going to be on like Riverdale or I guess that's the show now, right? But so I always kind of knew, it'd probably take a little while, and so when the salt and pepper started coming in pretty hard, I it's true. I will say the last few years or so, I've probably worked more than I had previously, and then and it's exactly, it's a lot of play a lot of sad dads. I don't know why specifically sad, but it's like, my daughter, she ran away. Oh, she's on drugs. Oh, it's like it's something sad, like, oh no.
Never the jolly.
It just for some reason I convey like failed.
Do you think it's your age, or that casting directors are more open to like a colorblind casting?
I think it's a combination of things. Yeah, certainly. But like I always think of George Clooney. If you remember like Clooney way back, like he was like on like The Facts of Life, or like Roseanne or something, but it was like he had like this weird mullet. And it was like this kind of like, who's this guy? But it wasn't until it was like the timing was right that he like kind of aged into that, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's George Clooney, and not this kind of weird, and not that I'm comparing myself to Clooney or anything, but I think timing and like it's a combination of factors, like kind of coming together, and certainly yes, for Asian actors, it's a pretty good time now. I would, obviously it's still not great, but things are better. They're getting better. Things are getting better. So
you can eat, you can pay your rent. But actually, I haven't even formally introduced you. We got Feodor Chin, everybody.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Hello.
We went to high school together, the three of us, and also with Jamie Chung, right? Jamie Chung, Lowell High grad.
Yeah. I think she was.
I think she was like 94 or 96.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 06. Who knows?
I think
it probably is 06. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Hey, we're still behind Benjamin Bratt though, and Carol Channing.
Benjamin Bratt. Yeah, Bill Bixby. Those are the big names of Lowell High Entertainment there.
Mm-hmm.
Lemony Snicket is a name I like to drop. Anyway, all right. So, welcome, folks. Thanks for joining us. That's gonna be fun. We're gonna walk our way through a couple shows, and we got some more insider questions for Theo. For those of us out there who've been wondering what it's like to be a huge Hollywood star.
Hey, I have some friends I can ask about.
You've played a Hollywood star before.
Yes, I've played them on TV. Yes.
All right. So, how do you actually become an actor? Like, how does this happen? Like, if you talk to your 20-year-old, so this is Mel's question.
We were supposed to work it in organically into the conversation. Remember?
So smooth, right?
By the by, Theo.
No, that's
Yes.
that was.
I'm not a professional here.
That was a great segue. Just kind of ease right into it. You know, I was actually doing another podcast earlier this month, and kind of talking about that. Yeah, like, oh, so how did you get into this kind of thing? And there were I listened back to it a little bit later, and I realized there's so many references to submitting via these publications that they used to have, like Backstage West or Dramalog, or in the Bay Area it was Callboard. Right. And it's like printed like magazines you would pick up that would have listings for audition. And I realized, like, oh my God, these people, these kids listen, they're like, just what is this guy talking about? Like, this is like, so just go and die, old man. Like, what are you? This is not helpful to me.
You fetched an owl.
Yeah, exactly. It's just yeah. So, well, let's see. I guess this is presumably for the youngsters out there who might have a
up and coming. Yeah.
I would definitely say just start acting, like, or taking classes. Certainly, whether that be at at your high school or doing, like, local theater productions or that kind of thing. And then as far as the business side of it, at some point you'll have to secure an agent, and they'll start sending you out on auditions, and that can be difficult depending on I guess your type, or who and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think like anything, you just start doing it, and you start training for it and working on it. Yeah, I don't know if that's like particularly unhelpful, but I mean, like, I could tell you my journey, but again, it's riddled with these, like, oh, and you have a Thomas guide, and you're like, what is this guy talking about?
Map.
And you would drive around and like drop off your headshot. It's like, what? Yeah, because I used to, for years, I would go to like Kinko's, which was a place where you make copy, and like you would have your headshot, which is an 8x10 headshot, and then for whatever reason, they're 8x10, and the resume is printed on 8.5x11, and so you would print out your resume, and then you would staple the resume to the back of the headshot, but you would have to cut off the edges to make it fit, an 8x10, and like literally you would do that, a couple times, a month. You go to Kinko's and do that, and you would send out these headshots, these physical by mail
in an oversized envelope so it doesn't get folded. My goodness, it adds up.
Right, exactly. And they're just like, what are you talking about, man? Yeah, but it's all online now, basically. You just even submissions and auditions, quite frankly. With the pandemic, pretty much, virtually all auditions are on Zoom now, which is kind of crazy. And I guess, eventually they'll probably get back to, in person. But, for now, I think, frankly, they're a lot of these studios are saving so much money because they don't have to, rent studio space or whatever. And they're just, they don't want to probably commute either. And so, it's a weird time, definitely. But yeah, it's all online these days. But real talk, as far as like, if you're definitely interested in getting into acting, other than the acting classes or just doing stuff, just there's so many venues to be seen and to make, like TikTok, like literally TikTok. Just start making TikToks, I guess, because apparently that's that is a viable career path.
I mean, YouTube is ginormous now. I mean,
but you've done things where you posted them on YouTube, right? Like you used to make short films, didn't you?
I've made a few shorts, but even that was more in the actual kind of older vein of like, oh, I got to assemble a crew and actually shoot this as a film, as opposed to like now you can literally just set up your phone and bing, make a, like you're dancing or something or some weird, and like,
short in your days was like 3 to 10 minutes. Shorts now are 30 seconds. Yeah.
Right. Literally. Yeah.
Do you have a TikTok, Theo?
I do not. That's the one thing I
was gonna plug it.
Twitter and Instagram. Well, plus, it just I just I'm getting too old for that. Like, it's like another thing. I gotta. I can't. And I've already. I'm already. Kind of a Luddite. Like I really am not good with these.
Don't you feel like every day we're like Danny Glover? Like we're just too old for this.
Oh yeah. Or like literally turning into my mother. Like I'm just like, what did I turn into my mom? Just like, but yeah, I just like, I don't know what's going on.
You got any cool celebrity stories, Theo? You must have one. You must have one.
Randall Park. We're friends.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's much of a story, but like, yeah, he's a great guy. He is as nice as he is funny and talented, which actually makes him kind of hateable.
Yeah.
He's like, God damn, like this, it's not fair. It's like, how is that? That's not fair, But like, yeah, no, he is a real sweetheart. And I guess if we could, kind of talk about, we're going to segue eventually into Fresh Off the Boat.
Yeah.
But when they were starting that, I guess I could tell you this. Randall, great guy, great actor. But accents are probably not his best thing.
He would say that.
And I think when they were shooting that pilot, I actually spoke with him and recommended a few, sent some like accent people his way. But if you'll notice, like you watch that pilot, and then like as the show went on, he eventually just dropped it completely. I think. Like he wasn't even, because like it just wasn't his thing, and frankly, you didn't really need it.
More distracting than anything.
Yeah. So, and I think it ended up being fine. Because he's so funny anyway. It's not like it was. Yeah. But but initially, he was like, and I think they were. I'm sure the producers too were just trying to figure it out. Like, what do we want to do here? And but I think you could see in that pilot, it's a
little rough.
It's like, and then eventually, it might even been like a couple episodes later. But I feel like definitely by the end of that first season, it was.
Isn't that ironic? Like you grew up and you're probably pretty proud. You're like, I don't have a Chinese accent. I was born in America, right? And then all these roles are like, so can you do a Chinese accent? You're like, what?
Well, I'm more. I'm about that with the language, quite frankly. There's so many parts that I certainly missed out on or wasn't even able to, because I just flatly refused. Well, because my folks, they sent me to Chinese school from like kindergarten to fifth. Right. And so like every Saturday morning, but I was just so resentful of it. Like that's like I willed myself not to learn. And but then the other thing too, because like it was Cantonese. And most of the times they ask for Mandarin now, which is completely foreign to me. So it wouldn't have really helped anyway. So it was like ridiculous.
Your mom was saying, you'll rue the day you don't go to Chinese school.
She wasn't wrong. Yeah, that's part of, I think, getting older is you just the more things you realize your mother was right about. Like,
she was never wrong.
Yeah, not another one.
Mel, you got any celebrity stories? You bumping any celebrities around here?
Nobody. Oh, well, I mean, Tom Brady, used to live in the neighborhood, grew up in the neighborhood, but I've never seen him. Although there have been, what is it? Gretchen, right? What's the wife's name?
Giselle.
Yeah.
Giselle sightings around the neighborhood.
So he actually lives in San Mateo now?
He grew up
his parents.
a few blocks over.
Got it. Yeah.
So everybody has a little, young Tommy Brady story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sarah High School.
Yeah, no, it's Tom Brady and like Barry Bonds too.
Bonds. Like, Lynn Swan.
Yeah. No, it's a breeding ground for athletic talent.
All right. Well, we'll get more stories for you. No, just keep thinking. Keep thinking of stories. I want some dirt. I want some sleaze. No, I don't know. No, we don't. So we're talking about sitcoms. So so everyone knows a sitcom, right? Back in the back in the 50s was kind of the golden age, right? You had the I Love Lucy, and then Dick Van Dyke in the 60s, and of course MASH and Cheers and Seinfeld in the 80s and 90s. So sitcoms is this formula that they started, the 30-minute format. What is it, like 23 actual minutes? How many minutes
less
is a sitcom?
now.
Maybe less. Yeah, so just a real short little hit of something where there's a situation that makes people laugh. I think you guys remember this. We're old enough to remember the days when people would set their schedule aside, right, to watch a show so they can talk about it the next day. You know, your Seinfeld or your Friends, and people would get together the next day to talk about that water cooler conversation. I don't think those days are around anymore. Well, maybe Game of Thrones was kind of like that, where you'd want to talk about it the next day. But I don't know if sitcoms are at that level anymore where the whole nation is watching it at the same time. But it is a super popular format. But for this show, we're going to talk about Asian American sitcoms, or Asian Canadian sitcoms, I guess, as it were. And they've kind of had a little bit of a renaissance maybe in the last 10 years or so. So we'll talk about them. How about you guys? Growing up, did you watch a lot of sitcoms, or what was your sitcom of choice growing up?
I think I watched The Golden Girls.
Was that your show? I never got into that one. I was more of a MASH kind of guy, or Cheers. MASH and Cheers were my two, I think. How about you, Phil? What did you watch?
Three's Company was definitely, even though, even if I wasn't like fully aware of all the kind of double entendres and everything. But there was like John Ritter is just his physical comedy. It's such a comic genius.
Looking back, it was just also wildly inappropriate. Looking back, you're like, whoa.
They're pretending to be gay.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. No, it's definitely like a lot of Mel Brooks movies or something. The classic, like, oh, they could never make that today kind of thing. But.
Do you remember ever seeing an Asian on TV growing up?
Well, I was a big Star Trek fan because that was always on like about 4 or 5, like in the afternoon. And it'd be like when I was doing homework or right before dinner. And so, George Takei as Sulu was, that was like, huge. But no, you're right. I mean, I think there was always that kind of like,
it's like a
when
unicorn.
You saw one, it was like, hey, anybody grab your sister. So, hey, look, there's an Asian guy. How about that? Yeah.
Remember Pat Morita as Arnold on Happy Days? He wasn't like all that long. He was in maybe a couple episodes, but yeah, so he was on. And then Hawaii Five-0 had some. But that was before our days, right? That was a little earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the 70s and 80s, there was Pat Morita on Happy Days, but he also had a show called Mr. T and Tina in 1976. It was like maybe 8 episodes or something like that. And then MASH had, it's set in the Korean War, so they had to have a couple Asians in there.
Right.
But they actually had Rosalind Chow. Remember at the last season, they brought in Rosalind Chow, and she was Klinger's wife from Korea. So it was kind of sparse. Do you remember in the 90s? Do you remember when Ross on Friends gets an Asian girlfriend?
Sure.
Her name was Julie. It was played by Lauren Tom.
Mm-hmm.
She had like 2 lines. It was this weird phase where I think they were on a break, I guess. Rachel and Ross were on a break. I clearly remember that going like, oh, interesting. Okay, Asian girlfriend.
Yeah, I think she's talked about that, like in interviews later, how it was like kind of an unpleasant experience for her because the friends had grown,
huge.
Yes, well, and so cliquish, like because they were so bonded, and so like, oh, who is this outsider kind of coming in?
Yeah,
and I think she felt that it was like the actual shooting experience was maybe not too pleasant. And then when it aired, like I remember there was definitely like, and I don't think it was anything necessarily racial, but just this, because everyone wanted Ross and Rachel to get back together, and so like there was the audience in general I think was definitely not a fan of this particular.
Yeah, it was like palpable, like because they had the live studio audience, right? So she could probably feel the hate.
Right. This is kind of like hate radiating her way.
And then for a minute, Lucy Liu on Ally McBeal. Remember that character? Yeah, that was an interesting character. Another not super popular character. Like, she was kind of the foil, right? Wasn't she?
She was like a dragon lady. Like, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a hard ass. But she did speak Mandarin on that show.
Yeah, I hardly remember her on that show, but I only watched a few episodes of that. But that was a wildly popular show for a minute.
I was, yeah. That the dancing baby, right?
Yeah,
that was a whole thing, right? You know, that was the dancing.
Man, that was a lifetime ago.
It does seem like it was. The days, the 90s. And then in the 2000s, we have a bunch of South Asian stars. You know, Mindy Kaling. We have Raj on The Big Bang Theory, and then Aziz Ansari on Park and Rec. And then Harry Shum Jr. Is he local? Is he Bay Area? I thought he had some Bay Area connection.
I don't know.
But yeah, he's turned Glee into a little career. He's gonna do some more stuff. We were talking about him in Netflix's Love Hard.
Oh yeah, I watched that.
Yeah. So that was fun. Hopefully Crazy Rich Asians. And then 2010 was kind of a dry time, but Dr. Ken, have you ever watched Dr. Ken? I've never watched it.
I watched a few episodes.
Was it really bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I too. I saw the pilot. I did not enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, doesn't he have enough money? He doesn't need to be doing this.
But you know what I do remember thinking at the time, because it was you had Fresh Off the Boat and Dr. Ken and you had like two primetime, Asian-led sitcoms. It's like, wow. And white folks have all sorts of, shitty sitcoms, and like true equality would be like, oh, well, we can have, shitty sitcoms too. Like they don't all have to be like, groundbreaking, fantastically good. It's like, oh yeah, it's shitty, but like it's fine.
There.
It's on the air.
There's another side.
So that's what I felt about that. I suppose that's fairly insulting, but
But man, he's parlayed that. He's not just that, but his whole.
Oh, he owns Fox now, basically, with the Masked Singer thing.
He does football,
the Masked whatever. Like he's just like, there's literally like three like kind of like masked, like some company, just which good for him.
Good for him. Yeah. All right, so then let's talk about some shows that were predominantly Asian cast. So we've talked about some shows that were kind of had a token Asian. I mean, literally a token Asian on them. But I think we got to start with San Francisco's own. She went to Lowell for a year, I think, didn't she? And then she went to McTier School of the Arts or something. Margaret Cho, comedian, and how would you describe her? She mostly a comedian, right? Back in those days, she was.
Yeah. I remember seeing her. I think this was like maybe before she blew up, but was it Josie's Juice Joint or something? It used to be like a little place down in Castro, where they had stand up, and I remember seeing her. I mean, she was always funny.
Yeah, so she had enough clout to get this show on the air. She was the writer, right? She wrote it too?
I'm not sure. She was probably one of the writers, and I'm sure it was based loosely on her.
So 1994. Did she overlap your sisters? She might have overlapped your sisters for you. At Lowell? Maybe. I mean, I'm not sure. But of course, she's probably only there for the 1 year or something. Yeah. And your sisters are too busy conquering calculus and AP physics.
Yeah.
All American Girl was, I think, what most people consider the first Asian American sitcom. 1994, basically Korean family, right? Did it have any other premise other than that? It was just.
I think that was it. Literally, it was just, this is Margaret Cho and her family, which I think. I don't remember how many seasons it ran, but they kind of retooled it like after. Like it was like her and like. Oh, she moved out of the house and she was living with like just, some dudes in a, like a roommate situation kind of, if I recall, that's what they, because that earlier incarnation was not.
I remember getting kind of excited about it. Like, oh, wow, Asian American.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And then you watch an episode and you're just kind of, it's just not that funny. It was, which was too bad. It's just too bad.
Well, I think it wasn't really written for like an Asian audience. You know, it was more like the kind of the bigger white audience, what they would expect like an Asian family to be.
America wasn't ready for it. But so I just saw an interview with Jeff Yang, and he's been doing television criticism forever, and he wrote a fairly negative review of it, and he got ripped for it. Like everyone's like, "Hey, man, this is our people. You can't, how dare you?" And he was kind of like, "It's just not that good."
What's the matter with Margaret?
I suspect boy trouble. She's over there eating a Dove bar, dripping all over the self-help section.
Margaret, I tell you this because I care. Go out with garbage, expect to be dumped.
I don't go out with garbage.
Oh, no? What about that guy? Shotgun?
There's a big difference between white trash and garbage. Okay, maybe I haven't made the best choices lately.
I could fix you up with a nice Korean boy. But that would make me happy and spoil your perfect lifetime record.
You want to fix me up? Fine.
Really?
Sure, why not?
Don't toy with me, Margaret.
I'm serious. You couldn't do any worse than I have. So go ahead, call your matchmakers, alert the ladies in the church group, use whatever quaint old world methods you see fit.
Stand aside while I boot up.
Hey, Daniel Kwan. I went to high school with him.
He was valedictorian.
Uh-huh. Well, he's in Lompoc Correctional Facility now. Insider trading.
White-collar crime. Still honorable. Oh, wait. Here he is. I have found the perfect one for you. Raymond Han. He's smart, well-groomed, obedient.
How often would I have to walk him?
I tell you, Margaret, he's exactly what you need. A solid, reliable, secure young man. Look, he's a doctor. And from a good traditional family.
Wow, and check out that frequent flyer mileage.
So, yeah, it was short-lived. I think it was one and done, right? Was it maybe 2 seasons?
Something like that, yeah. But I do remember, I don't know if it was mid-season or like they had a second season, but I do distinctly remember them like, oh, we got to retool this. And so basically like the family, aspect was like all those characters. Or it was maybe they just kept Amy Hill because like as the grandmother, which is, because she's always, funny. But yeah.
But hasn't Amy Hill been playing the grandma for like the last 40 years?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you realize back in the 94, she was like 45 years old or something.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
So yeah, it was groundbreaking in a way, but it didn't revolutionize anything because nothing really changed for a couple decades in terms of Asians on TV. Mm-hmm. They're very, very sparse. So then I think we get to, what is it, 20? Which came first, Kim's Convenience or Fresh Off the Boat? Maybe.
It's got to be Fresh Off the Boat, I would think.
You think? Probably about the same, though. 2015, maybe 2016, somewhere around there.
Was it?
They both had about 5 seasons, right? 5 or 6 seasons. But, so a similar theme, right? I think these 3 shows kind of have a similar premise. It's a little what you would call the fish out of water. It's Asian family of immigrants comes to America or Canada, as it were. So Fresh Off the Boat was, I think that was 2015. Constance Wu, Randall Park, of course, based off of Eddie Wong's book. Same title, right? Fresh Off the Boat was his book's title. Mm-hmm. About growing up as a Taiwanese immigrant in Florida, so definitely not the predominant culture. Had pretty good ratings. Definitely, what would you say? 6 seasons? That's a good run, right? That's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you make it 100 episodes. You're doing something. And so I think in America you can't really survive off of, especially network, right? You can't survive off of Asian audience alone. So I think the numbers were pretty good with all audience. They liked it. What do you guys have memories of Fresh Off the Boat?
Yeah, we watched it from the get-go. I thought it was pretty good because there were a lot of kind of like winky, like, oh yeah, I see my mom in that, or oh yeah, growing up was like that.
Yeah, so this is Melvin Marr. Did you know any of the writers, Theo? Did you know any of the folks that do their?
I don't think so, but yeah, certainly aware of. Yeah, Melvin Marr. He's a big producer now, certainly. With following the success of Fresh Off the Boat for sure.
But yeah, great cast. I mean, that's the first time I'd ever seen Constance Wu. Had you ever seen her? I don't think she did a whole lot before that.
Yeah, no, she was. I thought she was terrific.
Yeah, she was the star of that show. I mean, Randall Park was great, but the Jessica character is a pretty iconic character. The Tiger Mom, it's a little bit of a trope in a way, but she was the first one to really bring it onto the main screen here. The Tiger Mom and there was a lot of winky stuff. The cheapness here, or the trying to flex on your relatives was kind of a funny theme, or rival immigrants, and then just fitting in with the dominant culture of the time.
Mom won't even talk to me. Aw, that's too bad. Thanks for letting me and Steve stay in your bedroom. It's cute, like a little mouse shoe. You are loving this, aren't you? Not at all. But if you want, I can put in a good word for you with Mom during our evening chat. We put on our slippers and talk about the family. We call it slipper talk. Okay, fine. You may be Mom's new favorite, but I'm going to win her back by using what's most important to her. Wheel of Fortune? A good bargain. You may be living your fancy lifestyle with your tatas and your miatas, but what Mom cares about most is stretching $1. Oh, little sister. Just because Steve and I are cushy doesn't mean I can't sniff out a good deal. Designer luggage, 75% off. When I told Mom, she almost smiled. Well, wait till I show her these silk throw pillows. 90% off from a condemned hospital. Why don't we go shopping, see who can find a better deal? Well, let's take this to the hall, Tammy's Fashion Hall, where they have an unprecedented selection of only left shoes. What a coincidence. That's my preferred discount shoe. Tammy! Coming, Amma!
So I had a real good run. I think this is one that, if you could say, this is a little bit more important than All American Girl, would you say, maybe?
Well, I mean, it was certainly more successful. I mean, I think for that reason alone, it makes it, and for whatever reasons that might be, whether it was a matter of like the timing was right, or like America was ready for it, or as opposed to the actual writing. But maybe there was, because I would be curious to know on the writing staffs of both those shows, because I would bet you All American Girl, it was probably just Margaret Cho and a bunch of white guys. I would think. I could be guessing, but I would assume that would be the case. And then certainly for Fresh Off the Boat, I would think the representation would have been a little more accurate.
I think there was, though, like a creative struggle, because Eddie Wong dropped off the project.
Oh yeah. So
definitely. I think he wanted a more raw, like, maybe I don't know what he.
Right. Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I from my understanding of it was that, it is a much kind of darker story. Like, like his dad would actually beat him and stuff like that. And it's like, accuracy is fine, but like, you're not going to get that on an ABC stick. Like, that's Disney. Like, that's just never going to happen.
And, racism, just, people don't laugh that much at racism. It's not that funny being called names, and.
Right.
So, they cleaned it up a little, but they tried to hint at it isn't always rainbows and unicorns when you're an immigrant. But, So, I like the show. Good show. Kim's Convenience. We're talking about writers. This is it was been in the news for a year or so about the I don't know what you want to call it. The demise isn't the right word, but Kim's Convenience started and had, I think Ines Choi was the name of the co-creator of it. And so she kind of had a lot more voice in the writer's room. And then, so Kim's Convenience takes place in Toronto, Korean-Canadian family whose parents came from Canada and came from Korea and run a little shop. And they have 2 adult kids. And everyone knows now that it was Simu Liu who was the son in that show. I never got into it. It's kind of had a little. Well, I think it's Netflix effect, right? But they were on like Korean. I keep saying Korean and Canadian. I keep mixing those up. They had so it was a Canadian show, network show, right? And then Netflix bought it, and then it kind of blew up a little bit, but it had a little cult following. So I just started watching just to do research for this show. I just watched a couple episodes, maybe half dozen episodes. Mel, you watch the show, right?
Yeah.
Mel?
Well, up until I think I watched part of the last season. And then,
which is season 5.
Yeah, and then it kind of fell apart there, so I haven't finished that season.
Yeah,
to say the least.
It's cute, right? Like, why did you watch it? Why did you like it?
I thought it was funny, and then when it first started, I don't really know a whole lot about Korean culture, so when it first started, I couldn't figure out if like Appa and Amma was like mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, because like the age was like, I could go. But there were like kind of surprising, funny bits. But then I told my friend who's Korean American, and she hated it. She's like, "What even is that accent?" I was like, "It's Korean."
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Hi, just this, please. You want something to drink? You look like you can use it. Insam energy beverage.
Sorry, what?
It's a Insam energy beverage. New one. Very good. From Korea. Give you energy. Made from?
Ginseng.
No. Insam.
No, like what it's made from looks like ginseng.
No, what it's made from look like insam.
Forget it, it's no big deal.
It's very big deal. Look the same, not the same thing. 1910. You know what happened in the 1910? Japan attacked Korea.
You Japanese, bud?
No.
You look Japanese.
No.
Yeah, you look like that guy in The Last Samurai.
Tom Cruise?
No, the Japanese guy.
Yeah. You look like you Dutch.
I am Dutch. How'd you know that?
I can tell.
That's cool.
I know. I am. So, ginseng is a Japanese name. Insam is a Korean name. Look same, not same thing. Yeah, you understand?
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, hook me up.
Okay, I hook up. So?
Yeah, I don't know. Just the beans.
Okay, see you.
He does it. He does it kind of. He does a little bit of a Yan Can Cook, a little thicker than you need to do it. And then, of course,
I mean, that's the thing though about that. I feel, I guess it's for any ethnic kind of program or film, that there's this like other level of like accuracy or genuineness that it's like it's an unfair burden that only these shows have, that like you said, like your friend would say, oh, that's not like, oh, what is it? I was like, well, but maybe it is for because like we're not all the same. And so or people like when they were saying like one of the big with Crazy Rich Asians, like, well, that's not every Asian. Well, of course not, But like, you wouldn't watch the Avengers and say, like, well, that's not every white person. Like, well, of course not, because they're not all superheroes. That's not what this is about, But like, only these Asian kind of projects have that burden of like, well, they have to, be everything to everybody, and it just there's
so
really
few
unfair.
of them.
Well, that's that is the thing, is that it is that scarcity.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda got a lot of heat for not having, Afro-Caribbean.
Sure, right, yeah. But and I get it. I mean, like certainly the issue of representation is huge, but it is that scarcity thing that you.
So you haven't mentioned this, but what do you think of Manny Jacinto on The Good Place?
Oh
yeah.
I thought he was great. Especially because you don't often see dumb
right
Asians,
yeah.
And I think that's great,
yeah,
because like we're all kinds of people, and like you want to see that kind of representation. But yeah, I'm sure, I think he probably did get a lot of shit for oh yeah, he's a dumb Asian. It's like, well, so
they exist.
They can't, Asians can't be dumb. Come
but on, I like how they set it up, right? He was like this Taiwanese monk.
Oh yeah. No, it was
like,
great.
that's not even the right name for Taiwanese person, and then they just they flipped it.
No, very well done.
So yeah, I mean, this show is fun. I mean, I think it's a fun watch. I don't love it, like I started it and I didn't go back. I might go back. I mean, I watched about 6 episodes and then I heard it gets better in season 2 and 3. So maybe I need to do some more of that. It had some touchy moments. It's kind of a dramedy. There's some drama in there, a little bit of, growth. The dad character is growing a little bit. I'm seeing fresh out the boat too. I mean, Constance Wu's character Jessica grows a little as an immigrant. So that's kind of a theme as they went on. But do you think they just ran out of material, or they just, what do you think? Did people get tired? Well, I mean, the kids got really old, so that's kind of weird to have. Yeah, that happened. But then, what do you think? They just run out of gas? I mean, why do you think shows end after 5-6 seasons?
I mean, I think there could be any number of reasons, but certainly with Fresh Off the Boat, I do remember, it was Constance Wu really not wanting to continue, but I don't know if that was, the reason why they didn't, but I think she certainly was pleased to be able to be free to do movies and things like that. But yeah, as far as it's hard to say.
But yeah, I guess in my mind, I feel like, so we talked about this, we talked about that, and they kind of ran out of immigrant experiences. Like I felt like, and heaven forbid they just have a show about Asians just living. Can't just be a show about people, but it has to have a little bit of a hook, I guess. And both those shows kind of premise themselves on, okay, we're the fish out of water thing, but then after a while, maybe they just ran out of immigrant stuff to talk about. Maybe. So we'll talk about Netflix for a second here. I mean, I think like I alluded to, I think Kim's Convenience kind of had a second life because of Netflix, and then we'll talk about another Netflix show later with Never Have I Ever. But Netflix is that kind of the key player here in representation field? Do you think they're like with Always Be My Maybe came out and Love Hard came out?
Netflix and I think streaming in general, I think you've with I think the timing of the pandemic and everything, it really there's just this explosion of streaming content that I guess probably Netflix was at the forefront of because it was already established. But you got all these platforms now, Hulu and Amazon, and there's just so much material, just so much content now. And I think I heard someone say that streaming is kind of what, like in the 70s, that kind of like independent cinema was, like where you had these young filmmakers, before they were willing to take risks. And I think streaming is kind of that area now where I think a lot of these studios might be willing to take a risk on something that, like, Asian American family, okay, why not, as opposed to like a big network might see that as a riskier,
too risky,
move.
We'll see. I mean, I think we'll talk about the future of Asians on television coming up, but I've been pleasantly surprised with the content that's been coming out with Asians in it, just because I think it doesn't take as much to get on the air as it used to. To get a show on a network television, you need to, that's why Margaret Cho's thing was so amazing, I guess. Maybe to get that far as she did, even if it wasn't the best show, it took some effort. And but now we're starting to see smaller productions, or even we talked about YouTube. I mean, guys like Wong Fu Productions are able to make short films and get millions and millions of eyeballs on it and make money off of it. And it's changing the landscape, I think, a little.
The Asian Bachelor was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys, Fung Brothers and those guys are producing some content that, would never have gotten made in the 80s or 90s, right? But now the platform, and they have a little bit of a budget, but they can make these not necessarily feature-length films, but they can make shorts for, a lot less money than it would have taken to make a film, right?
Yeah, I think YouTube's was a huge game changer, because then people can put their product out and then just be open to anybody, right? You don't have the gatekeepers from the studio saying, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think Middle America is going to respond to this. I mean, they put it out there, and then the proof is in the pudding.
You almost have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Very little. You're just going to throw it out there, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. All right. Well, you know what? I think we're going to let's wrap up the first part of this episode. I don't know if you guys know this, but we break it into 2 different episodes. So we'll split up this episode now. We'll dig deeper in part 2. We'll talk a little bit more about some newer shows even. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments about our show, can you write in, please?
Please.
Write us a letter. That's too desperate. You can write to us at infatuasianpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Instagram at The Infatuasian Podcast. Fia, what are your handles? What are your social handles?
You could find me on Twitter and Instagram at Feodor Chin, Feochin.
Give him a follow, everyone. More episodes coming soon. We are going to take a 2-week break at the end of December, so give you time to hang out with your family and get some rest. We're going to do the same. But until we talk to you again, on behalf of Mel, Feodor, and I, we hope you're all happy, healthy, and safe out there. Talk to you again, and bye. Waving doesn't work on radio, guys.
Oh.
See you next time, or
talk to you soon.
Bye.
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 Fresh off the boat, you can tell the way